it's Sandra Pike from LePage Atlantic and the Pike Group. And about 6 weeks ago, I met with a bunch of agents here locally, and we were discussing the market. So we thought we would do it on a monthly basis because the market is forever changing. So what we're going to do is I'll get everybody to introduce themselves, and then I'll go ahead with the questions. So below me, we have Brenda. Go ahead.
Hey, Sandra, Brenda Kay here with the Halifax Home Selling Group.
And the next?
I'll go next because it's me. So Richard Payne with EXP Realty and Halifax Homes and Lifestyles.
And last but not least,
Angus from LePage Atlantic here in Halifax.
awesome. Okay, so I'm going to start with you, Brenda, with the question that I gave to you.
Yeah.
So do you think, so if we looked at, 2020, what happened, there were homes that were going 50,000, 70,000, 100,000 over asking. Do you think that sellers missed the market? So we're getting ready now to go into we're in the middle of the first quarter. Do you think if I, got that much money for my house last year, am I going to do it this year? What are your thoughts?
It obviously, like the first 3 weeks of the year, because we're never sure the 1st of January. And it's funny because I was just talking about this. Nobody's missed an opportunity. The market is still as busy as it is. And to define a seller's market, you've got more demand than you have homes. But for the first time here, on top of that, we have COVID. And how COVID is creating more of a demand is because there's a lot of expats. They're never going to go to their office in Toronto or Vancouver or Calgary anymore. They're only ever going to work remote. And now they're saying, well, you know what? I'm going to come home. I don't have to be in Toronto now. I can be close to my family. There's local people that never had to worry about having an office in their house, and now they do. So I find I'm getting calls for people looking for a little bit more space in the room. And we've had a lot of people. I got a call yesterday from a woman in Georgia that wants to come up. Yeah. She talked about the 2 weeks quarantine, and, the inventory right now, like 4 years ago in 2017, we had over 2,000 houses active on the market. And I'm only talking residential, only residential homes. We have 549. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. So do you think, a question, just interject. Do you think that the trend will continue? So if the vaccines are, coming out, let's say by the fall, or, as they continue into second and third phase, don't you think that, let's say the consumer here locally will become more comfortable? And do you think more homes will be on the market because of that?
It's funny, like, because before COVID, we were tipping into a seller's market too. So I think we're going to keep going on the same trajectory as we are now, because even if we don't get the shots until the fall, say we clear it up by the fall of 2021, there's still people that are going to be, now their offices have let their leases go. They don't have them anymore. So they're still going to be looking for homes, plus our regular spring market. So I just see this. And, this is a really good time of year because the inventory is low.
Yeah.
Right.
Great for sellers.
It's great for sellers. And I mean, I just listed another one, like it was last week. And I mean, it's $50,000 over in 24 hours. Crazy.
Ian, so let's say a house sold, on James Street for $50,000 over. So the house was listed at 200, sold for 250. So if I'm the seller now, let's say a month later, should I list my house for 250 and expect to get 300, or where should I be listing my house around? Do you think, because most people would, well, this house over here sold for 300, so I'm going to list my house for, you know what I mean? So what are your thoughts?
My recommendations to all my clients is that you list the property lower than the sale price. No one knows the history behind how many competing offers there were, or how desperate the buyer was to buy. I mean, you could be in a scenario where someone has purchased or lost out on 10 to 12 offers and just is fed up with searching anymore, and then puts in a crazy offer. I would never start at the high point. I would always go a little bit lower, create more demand, and bring more people in to the property.
When I'm at on listing appointments, I get that sellers want as much money as they can. But what I've been seeing is that when people are listing high, they are staying on the market a little bit longer, maybe 2-3 weeks or longer, and then they're getting below. So they would be better off starting below than going high, correct?
I think so, but let's keep in mind too, not every house on the market needs to sell in 4 or 5 days, right?
No, but
If a house sits on the market for, 2 weeks, is that really that bad?
You know what? That's a good question. So if from when I'm looking at it, if the house is over $500,000, I'm okay with it being there. But if it's under 350 and it's been on the market for 2 weeks, I'm questioning that now. Whereas before, in a buyer's market, if the home was on the market for 6 months, it was normal.
Like any market, the buyers are going to dictate what the house is worth. You're going to have 30, 40 showings or 10 showings or whatever. And if you don't get offers or you get low offers, that's just telling you that the public doesn't feel that the price is accurate. So going high, it doesn't work. If you're trying to get the most value and most money, you should be listing a little bit lower and generating more action on the property.
I totally agree. And Richard, for yourself, being a buyer last year, as I was, it was horrible and extremely stressful. So what advice now would you be giving to a buyer who is out in this type of market?
So a lot of the buyers we've been dealing with, it's that same question, which is number one, they're questioning, should I be buying? Like, is the market too hot? Am I going to be overpaying? Am I going to struggle in 2 years? And all of those questions. But the biggest piece of advice we're giving now is get yourselves pre-approved. And then when you get yourself pre-approved for, let's say, 350, don't start shopping at 350. We don't want to get to the situation where we actually have a property. We looked at a 350, we had to bid to maybe 380 to actually get the property, and now we're going to struggle with financing. So what we're saying is, okay, and I don't want to set the expectation of we're looking at a 350 because you're approved at 350, and now we're finding we can't get a 350 house, now we have to go down to 300. We're starting to say, look, let's start in the 3 to 325. So we've got the ability to go over asking where we need to get the house, because we don't want to be shopping for 12 months trying to find a house. We had one client last year and I felt sorry for him. It took us around about 7 months and about 8 different multiple offers to actually get the house that we finally wanted. And it just took a lot of time. So that's the second thing we're saying is be prepared that this could take a little bit longer than usual. It's not going to be a 30 to 45 day process, potentially. We might find that right property for straight on day 2 or 3. And in which case, so long as we get the right offer, we get the conditions, we've done whatever we need to do on price, we're going to get the property. So it's have a little patience and, let's stick well within our budget as opposed to let's push the budget.
Interesting. So I got a question for you, Ian. So you work with a lot of banks, sell a lot of foreclosures, and which is awesome. So, when, we're talking to buyers, we're telling them to get pre-approved, maybe send a dear seller letter or a video to the seller when you're submitting an offer. Does it make a difference to a bank when someone is buying your foreclosure, or they're just all about the money?
I don't even think with regard, me personally, the letters really don't help. Like the buyer is trying to pull on the heartstring of the seller to say, oh, take my offer. The banks really don't look at that. They're looking at the bottom line 99% of the time. Occasionally on a resale buy, the people will read the letters and then ask me my opinion on it. And I'd simply just say, you know what, let's look at the closing date, the conditions date, the deposit, and the amount they're offering.
And how about yourself, Brenda? What would make a difference when you're in the selling position? And you get a buyer who's coming in with letters and, you have 10 offers. What makes the big difference for you?
I find, I just went through this when I was saying that went over last time, I had 9 offers come in on it. And we did have one come in with the heartstring letter and we read it. But you know what, at the end of the day, as Ian said, all the conditions and, like they were quite a ways apart, and that the seller sees that as money right out of their pocket. Money is a I would say the main factor usually.
Yeah. Would the agent, your knowledge of the other agent, would say if you had 2 offers that were the same, like same amount of money, same closing date, how would you pick the deciding one?
That's a tough question. Normally they're not exactly alike, So if I had, say the 2 had the same price, and then I'd look at the closing dates, and then we'd evaluate how much of a deposit, and then we'd look at what chattels they've asked for. So I've never had 2 come in with all the categories exactly the same. I have had at times the seller will take a little bit less when the closing date works for them, because that's very important to them, depending on where they're going. So
yeah, I always like to give the agent a call on the other end, especially if 2 deals are very similar, like, hey, what can you tell me about your client? Which mortgage broker are they working with? I just like to find a little bit more information, but a letter for myself, money talks at the end of the day for the most part.
it absolutely does.
Yeah, so so do you see, so anybody can reach out and answer this question. So I feel that the inventory will increase, and I think maybe by the end of the year, we could be going back into a more balanced market. I don't see what we're into right now being sustainable. Do you have any thoughts on this or anybody here?
I've kind of got the same idea as you. Like, I can't see, we're up 26% on average prices. I can remember when I was 8 years ago, just starting, average price was $280,000. End of December, it's $426,000. So just, you look at that difference, plus you look at 19 into 20, 26% of a price increase. I'm like, it kind of gives you that idea that not only are people spending more, but also houses in general, because they're going over asking price, new builds are obviously getting a little bit more expensive from a material and labor point of view. So prices have gone up. I think, at 426, Halifax is still a good, sensible market. I can't see I think we'll see a little bit this first half of the year where it kind of still carries on, because we're going to be short of inventory. Like Brenda was saying, I can't see a huge rush of 1,500 homes becoming active in the next 2 or 3 months. So I think whilst the inventory levels are still low, prices will start increasing a bit. But I think second half, it's going to flatten off. And I think we will see more inventory coming onto the market. And I think people will just start taking a little bit more of a breath, and we'll start just becoming a little bit more sensible. I still think it's going to be seller's market by the end of the year. I don't think that's going to change in terms of inventory levels. How many months on inventory have we got to sell? But I think it's going to slow down just a little bit. So, like Brenda says, 500 homes right now, that's 1 month. If we listed no new homes today and sold the same in December, we have no houses for sale. So it's going to increase, but we're still going to stay down maybe at like the 3 months, 3.5 months. But that'll put a little bit more sensibility into the market, hopefully a little bit less competition. So for the buyers, it becomes a little bit less multiple offers, and we don't have to write letters from the heart kind of situations. So that's what I'm seeing. Second half, they'll become a little bit more sensible. First half of the year, still going to be a bit crazy.
Crazy. What are your thoughts, Ian?
I
got a question for you after, Brenda. Ian, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think the inventory levels, I think the inventory levels will definitely increase. I mean, it's really tough, like you just said, Richard, with 500 homes on the market, and there's 1,000 realtors out there struggling for that business and that piece of the pie. I think once the vaccine comes in and people get a little bit more comfortable with, 20 or 30 couples going through their home on a, 2 or 3 day period, I think, we'll get a little bit more inventory there. As you mentioned earlier, Sandra, with regards to foreclosures, I think we'll, there's always foreclosures, regardless of the pandemic or not. There always is, I deal with 10 to 20 of them a year, and that's just me. Obviously there's a lot more of them, and that's on a regular year. So it could be different. And then with regards to, people, I think just feeling comfortable with, spending the extra money and getting more people out there to look at homes. People are gonna, it's gonna increase in the second half of the year for sure.
Yeah. So
really-
Brenda, yeah, no, I agree. So the conversation that I've been having with my team, because we work with 3 builders, is that, if you look at new construction, so the price, if I were to purchase new construction right now and my price is $500,000 and I have a closing date of October. Well, so talking with my builder this morning, I said, we should be doing a clause that states that in the event, of COVID, that, your closing date could be extended. Like, we have no idea. And I've seen this with, the current clients that I have right now who purchase our new construction. Some of their bills are, we were 10 months, but now we're 11 and 12 months, right? And then the cost increase. So, I mean, at one point in time, I felt last year that new construction was the safest alternative because you knew the price you were getting into. But now it's, it's changing. Like, we had to go back to a buyer the other day and said, your house that was, $499 is now $515 because of the lumber prices. So what are your thoughts? Like, are you seeing that, Brenda? Like, what's happening with your new construction?
I have 2 thoughts on new construction, actually. One, like you said, it's taking 8 to 10 months. So just to give the public what we had before, it was a 5 to 6 month build. And now, like you said, Sandra, it's going out 10 or 11 months. You would, prior to the pandemic, when you ordered your roof trusses, they came in 4 weeks. It's now taking 12 weeks to get the roof trusses. So yes, what we do on our new construction, we put it out a little bit further, and then we say, when we get the house roof tight, we'll have a more accurate assessment on it. The one on price wise, my guy kept his price there a couple of weeks ago. He aided on some of the increased costs. And again, to put that in perspective, a 2x4, one length of 2x4 used to be $3. It's now $9.
Crazy.
So builders can't eat all that loss. Say, how much would that affect a whole house if you had quoted it, prior to it? And just to go back, right. And just to go back with the new construction, like even when you were talking about first-time home buyers, well, because first-time home buyers can't afford new construction. They're priced out of the market. So one of my thoughts moving forward in the fallout, I think relocation works both ways. People coming in, people leaving. So I think in a range, like whether it's military or some other people, I think that I agree with you guys that we'll get some more inventory once the pandemic's over. I think companies will start to do relocations and that. But yes, new construction right now, it's a long wait and it's expensive, and it leaves out a huge segment of the buyers.
Yeah, absolutely. Any final closing thoughts, Ian?
I just hope that everyone stays safe, and that we get some more inventory so we can get a little busier, because it's tough right now. I feel my buyer clients anyway are getting very frustrated, losing out or on 5 or 6 or 7 offers on different homes. But my selling clients, they're
Yep.
they love it.
I know, I hear you. And yourself, Richard, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, a lot of it is just the patience. Like, we know it's frustrating. Like, it's frustrating not only for the buyer clients we're working with, but it's frustrating on the realtors as well. I mean, having conversations with other realtors in Ontario, some of the regions there, they're kind of looking at us and going, well, you know what? Welcome to the party. We've been like this for like 4 or 5 years. You guys are only just seeing it. And, you know, you're kind of saying it's kind of tough. After just 1 year of dealing with that, they were like, just have patience, stay on the path, and just have a little bit of trust and faith that, you know, the market will come around a little bit easier, not too much easier, but it's just stay on the path. Just understand that, yeah, you thought you were going to buy a house in 30 days. It's probably more like 60 to 90 days to make sure we can find the right house.
Absolutely. And any closing thoughts, Brenda?
Yes, I know that a lot of people, as Richard said, thinks realtors would love this, but it is very stressful on both. And I find, you know, like I have 2 sons that just sold or are selling. Like, so one son, it was great because he was moving in with somebody else, so he didn't have to worry about it. But the other son, the balance, because he has to sell his before he can buy. So, you know, a seller's market is very hard. I like to work in a balanced market. Now, Nick's going to make money on his sell, but he's going to pay it when he buys.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, it is, it's extremely difficult. And, but I still feel that the first quarter is the best time to sell, and second and third quarter are the best time to buy. That's been my train of thought, you know, since COVID had hit and we were into the middle of last year. Well, guys, I really appreciate you coming out, and we'll get together next month. Thank you.
All right.
Cheers.
Guys.